You brushed your teeth, you turned off the lamp, and for a second, before your eyes adjusted to the dark, everything went a little blurrier than you remember it being a few years ago. Maybe you blinked it away. Maybe you told yourself it's just tired eyes. But you've noticed it more than once lately, and you've started wondering if it's just going to keep going that direction. Most of us have been told the same short list for eye health: carrots, sunglasses, and an annual checkup. That advice isn't wrong, but it leaves out something most people never hear in a routine appointment: that certain nutrients only protect your retina if you're actually eating them regularly. And by the time an eye doctor sees a change on a scan, that nutrient gap may have been building for years. There's no mystery or conspiracy here, just a scheduling problem. A 10-minute eye exam has time to check your vision and look at your retina. It doesn't have time to walk you through which foods build up protective pigment in your eyes over months, or why timing matters. So that's what we're doing today. We're counting down 5 real, well-studied fruits that support eye health, ranked by how directly the science ties them to the structures inside your eye that actually protect your vision as you age. And the fruit at number 1 isn't the one most people guess. It's backed by a university sleep study most people have never heard of. And it does double duty on both your eyes and your sleep in the same handful of fruit. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments, when was the last time you had an actual eye exam? And have you noticed any changes in your night vision over the past year? I read these, and it shapes what I cover next. Let's start at number 5. Number 5 is papaya. Don't let this position fool you. Papaya sits in produce aisles everywhere right now, and almost nobody eating it is thinking about their eyes when they buy it. Most people think of papaya as a digestive fruit, something you eat for its enzymes and call it a day. That belief isn't wrong, but it means people overlook what else is sitting inside that orange flesh, and they miss out on one of the more concentrated fruit sources of provitamin A carotenoids available at a grocery store. Papaya is rich in beta-carotene, which your body converts to vitamin A. And vitamin A is essential for the light-sensing cells in your retina, the rod cells that let you see in dim light. It also carries a meaningful dose of vitamin C, which matters more than most people realize, because vitamin C is one of the antioxidants studied directly in the National Eye Institute's AREDS2 trial, the largest clinical study on nutrition and age-related eye disease ever conducted. Think of vitamin A like the film in an old camera without enough of it. The image your rod cells capture in low light comes out grainy and faint. That's part of why very low vitamin A intake is linked to poor night vision. Papaya helps keep that film well stocked. This matters more as we age because of something called oxidative stress, the slow accumulation of cellular damage from unstable molecules called free radicals. Your retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in your entire body, using enormous amounts of oxygen, which means it also generates more of these damaging molecules over a lifetime. Antioxidant-rich foods like papaya are one of the tools your body uses to keep that damage in check. Imagine someone like Grace, 68, from Tucson, who always assumed papaya was just a breakfast fruit her doctor recommended for her digestion. When she started eating a cup of it most mornings alongside her usual eye vitamins, she didn't get a dramatic before and after story, and that's honestly the point. Eye nutrition isn't a fast fix. It's a slow, cumulative investment, and papaya is one of the easiest, cheapest ways to make that deposit. To prepare it, pick a papaya that gives slightly under gentle thumb pressure, the way a ripe avocado does. Cut it in half, scoop out the black seeds, and slice the flesh into cubes. It should be soft, faintly sweet, almost custardy, with a smell like a cross between melon and mango. A squeeze of lime cuts through the sweetness nicely. Pair it with a small handful of walnuts or a few slices of avocado. The fat helps your body absorb the fat-soluble vitamin A more efficiently, since carotenoids need dietary fat to be absorbed properly in the gut. Coming in at number 4 is a fruit almost everyone already has in their kitchen, but almost nobody eats with their eyes in mind. Number 4 is the orange and any citrus fruit in that family, including grapefruit and tangerines. Most people know citrus for vitamin C and immune support, full stop. That belief isn't wrong, but it stops short of the most well-documented reason vitamin C matters specifically for your eyes. It was one of the core nutrients tested in the AREDS2 trial, the National Eye Institute's landmark study on slowing age-related macular degeneration, the leading cause of vision loss in older Americans. The AREDS2 formula vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, copper, lutein, and zeaxanthin was shown to meaningfully slow the progression of macular degeneration in people who already had signs of the disease. And in a more recent analysis published in 2024, researchers found the updated formula could slow progression of a more advanced stage of dry macular degeneration, called geographic atrophy, by roughly 55% over about 3 years. That's not a small effect. Even the researchers described it as one of the more encouraging developments in AMD treatment in years. Now, that trial used concentrated supplement doses, not a glass of orange juice. I want to be honest about that distinction rather than overstate it. But vitamin C from food does something specific inside your eye. Your aqueous humor, the clear fluid at the front of your eye, actually maintains one of the highest vitamin C concentrations of any fluid in your body, far higher than what's in your bloodstream. Your eye is, in a sense, hoarding vitamin C on purpose because it needs that antioxidant protection against UV exposure and oxidative damage every single day. Think of vitamin C in your eye like the sealant on a wooden deck exposed to weather year-round. It doesn't stop the sun from hitting the wood, but it slows down how much damage that exposure leaves behind. This becomes more important with age because your body's baseline antioxidant defenses become less efficient over time, even as cumulative UV exposure and oxidative stress keep climbing. Citrus is one of the most reliable, inexpensive ways to keep that defense topped up daily. Picture someone like Daniel, 71, from Orlando, whose eye doctor had mentioned early drusen small deposits that can be an early marker for macular changes during a routine visit. He didn't overhaul his diet dramatically. He just started keeping a bowl of clementines on the counter instead of a bowl of crackers, an easy swap that made citrus the default snack instead of the occasional one. To eat an orange properly for this purpose, section it fresh, rather than drinking juice from a bottle. Juicing strips away fiber and some of the vitamin C degrades with processing and storage time. Peel it so the white pith stays mostly on the fruit, since that pith carries additional flavonoids. The segments should be juicy enough to burst slightly when you bite into them. Tart up front, sweet on the finish. Pair citrus with a source of healthy fat like a few almonds, because some research suggests dietary fat alongside vitamin C-rich foods can support better nutrient absorption overall, especially when paired with the fat-soluble vitamin A from an item like papaya. 2 items in and you're already stacking 2 very different antioxidant pathways working on the same retina. The next fruit on this list has some of the newest research behind it, a controlled human trial published in 2023 that measured something most people have never heard of: the density of protective pigment sitting directly in the center of your vision. Number 3 is grapes. Most people think of grapes purely as a snack or a source of resveratrol for heart health. That belief isn't wrong, but it misses the most interesting recent finding. A randomized, placebo-controlled trial out of the National University of Singapore, led by researcher Young-Eun Kim, gave older adults the equivalent of about 1.5 cups of grapes a day for 16 weeks and measured their macular pigment optical density, essentially how much protective pigment was built up in the macula, the part of the retina responsible for your sharp central vision. The grape group showed a significant increase in that pigment density, along with higher plasma antioxidant capacity and phenolic content. Meanwhile, the group that didn't eat grapes saw a rise in something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, harmful compounds that build up in tissue, including the retina, and are linked to oxidative damage. Researchers on the study called it the first human trial to directly show that grape consumption improves markers of eye health. That's a meaningful first, because most fruit and eye health claims lean on older animal studies or purely observational data. Think of macular pigment like tinted glass built into a window, filtering out the harshest wavelengths of light before they ever reach what's behind the glass. Your macula uses that pigment made from carotenoids like lutein and zeaxanthin, and apparently supported by the antioxidants in grapes to filter high-energy blue light before it reaches your most light-sensitive photoreceptors. This matters for aging eyes specifically because macular pigment density naturally tends to decline as oxidative stress accumulates over decades, and lower macular pigment density has been associated with higher risk of age-related macular degeneration. Anything that measurably raises that pigment the way this grape trial did is worth paying attention to. Consider someone like Patricia, 66, from Sacramento, who had always treated grapes as an occasional dessert fruit, something to serve at a dinner party rather than eat daily. Swapping her evening cookie habit for a bowl of grapes instead wasn't a hard change. It was almost a lateral move in her routine, just with a very different nutritional payoff. To prepare grapes properly, rinse a bowl of them cold from the fridge. The slight chill makes the skin snap cleanly when you bite down, and the flesh underneath should be firm, sweet, with a faint tartness right at the skin. Red and purple grapes tend to carry more of the polyphenols responsible for the antioxidant effects than pale green varieties, so lean toward the darker ones when you can. Pair grapes with a small piece of dark chocolate occasionally, since both are rich in polyphenols that work through overlapping antioxidant pathways, though grapes should be the daily habit, and chocolate the occasional treat. And when you eat grapes alongside citrus earlier in the day, you're now covering 3 separate antioxidant systems protecting your eyes: vitamin C, carotenoid pigment building, and AGE reduction, all working on the same tissue from different angles. So far, you've learned that a landmark NIH trial found a specific antioxidant combination could slow one of the most advanced stages of vision loss by more than half, something most routine eye exams never mention. You could stop the video right here and already walk away with something worth changing tonight. But item number 2 involves a carotenoid your body cannot make on its own. One, your macula concentrates more than almost any other tissue in the body, and it comes from a fruit most people have never once associated with their eyes. If nobody ever sat you down and explained which everyday foods actually build the protective pigment inside your eyes instead of just being told to eat healthy, tap subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel does every week, for free. Hit like if you learned something in the last few minutes your last eye exam never covered. And if you know someone who's been putting off their annual eye exam, send them this video today. Number 2 is mango. Most people associate mango with vitamin C and tropical sweetness and stop there. That belief isn't wrong, but it skips over the reason nutrition researchers actually study mango in the context of eye health. It's one of the relatively small number of commonly eaten fruits that contains meaningful amounts of zeaxanthin, one of the 2 primary carotenoids along with lutein that make up your macular pigment. Most people have heard of lutein from spinach and kale. Fewer people know that zeaxanthin, its close chemical cousin, is concentrated even more specifically in the very center of the macula, the small area responsible for your sharpest, most detailed vision, the part you use for reading, recognizing faces, and driving at night. Corn, orange bell peppers, and egg yolks are the most commonly cited zeaxanthin sources in nutrition databases, and mango sits on that same short list, giving you a fruit-based option alongside your vegetables. Here's the part that surprises people. Your body cannot manufacture lutein or zeaxanthin on its own. Every milligram of it in your retina came from something you ate. That's a fundamentally different category from something like vitamin C, which your body can at least synthesize small amounts of through other pathways in some circumstances. With these 2 carotenoids, food is genuinely the only source. Think of your macula like a bullseye target, with zeaxanthin concentrated most heavily in the tiny center ring and lutein spread more toward the outer rings. Together, they form a protective yellow pigment that both filters damaging blue light and neutralizes free radicals directly at the site where your sharpest vision happens. This becomes increasingly important with age because, just like the macular pigment we discussed with grapes, your baseline carotenoid stores tend to decline over the decades unless you're actively replacing them through diet, and lower lutein and zeaxanthin status has been linked in multiple studies to higher risk of age-related macular degeneration and cataracts, the 2 most common vision-robbing conditions in older adults. Picture someone like Robert, 74, from Charlotte, an avid reader who noticed he'd started needing brighter and brighter lamps just to get through a page comfortably. His ophthalmologist mentioned cataracts were forming, which is common with age, but didn't have time in a 15-minute visit to walk through which foods support the lens and retina long-term. Adding mango to his morning routine was simply an easy, enjoyable habit layered on top of the medical care he was already receiving, not a replacement for it, but a genuine complement. To prepare a mango, pick one that gives slightly to gentle pressure near the stem and smells faintly sweet at that end. That's how you know it's ripe. Slice around the flat pit, score the flesh into a grid without cutting through the skin, and push the skin inside out so the cubes pop up, bright orange, glossy, and fragrant, with a texture somewhere between a peach and a very ripe pineapple. It should taste intensely sweet with just a whisper of tartness. Pair mango with a small serving of Greek yogurt or a few pumpkin seeds. Zeaxanthin, like all carotenoids, is fat-soluble, so eating it alongside even a modest amount of fat noticeably improves how much your body actually absorbs. The same principle we covered with papaya, now applied to a carotenoid your body can't make on its own. And that brings us to number 1, the fruit that does something almost no other food on this list does. It doesn't just support your eyes. Real clinical research suggests it may improve your sleep quality at the same time, which matters more than people realize because your eyes do a significant amount of their repair work while you're actually asleep. Number 1 is the kiwi. Most people, if they think about kiwi and health at all, think of it purely as a vitamin C fruit tangy, a little unusual, mostly an afterthought in the produce aisle. That belief massively undersells what the actual research shows. Kiwi carries an unusually high concentration of vitamin C for its size gram for gram, more than an orange, along with meaningful amounts of both lutein and zeaxanthin, the same carotenoids we just discussed with mango and grapes. That alone would be enough to earn it a spot on this list. But kiwi has something none of the other 4 fruits have, a specific clinical study on consuming it in the evening, right before bed. Researchers at Taipei Medical University in Taiwan ran a 4-week trial where adults with self-reported sleep problems ate 2 kiwi fruit an hour before bedtime every night. The results were tracked with sleep diaries, a validated sleep quality questionnaire, and wrist actigraphy devices that objectively measure movement and sleep patterns. By the end of the study, participants' subjective sleep quality scores improved by 42.4%. The time it took them to fall asleep dropped by 35.4%. Total sleep time increased by 13.4%, and overall sleep efficiency improved by 5.41%. Those are the actual published numbers, and that's not a typo on the sleep onset figure. Researchers have pointed to kiwi's relatively high serotonin content, along with its antioxidants and folate, as the likely mechanisms, since serotonin plays a role in your body's production of melatonin, the hormone that governs your sleep-wake cycle. Think of your evening kiwi like flipping 2 switches with one hand. One switch dims the lights for your nervous system, encouraging deeper, more efficient sleep, while the other quietly restocks the exact antioxidant and carotenoid pigment your retina uses for repair. That combination is genuinely rare in a single piece of fruit. Here's why the timing matters specifically for your eyes. A significant amount of cellular repair and clearance of metabolic waste in your retina happens during deep sleep. If items 3 and 4 on this list, the grapes building macular pigment and the mango supplying zeaxanthin, are giving your eyes raw material, better sleep is part of what allows your body to actually use that material for repair overnight. When you pair kiwi with the mango from item 2, you're now supplying lutein and zeaxanthin from 2 different fruits in the same day, while also supporting the sleep quality your body needs to put those nutrients to work. Consider someone like Helen, 70, from Denver, who had struggled for years with both restless sleep and blurry near vision by evening. She wasn't chasing a single miracle fix. She started keeping kiwi in her fruit bowl specifically for the hour before bed, alongside the citrus and grapes she'd already added earlier in the week from this list. It became less about any one fruit and more about consistently feeding her eyes and her sleep the same raw materials night after night. To prepare it, choose a kiwi that gives slightly under gentle pressure, the way a ripe peach does. Slice it in half and eat it straight from the skin with a spoon. The flesh should be bright green, studded with tiny black seeds that add a faint crunch, tart at first bite with a sweetness that builds as you keep eating. Some people eat the fuzzy skin too, which adds fiber, though most find the texture off-putting and prefer to scoop. Pair your evening kiwi with a small handful of walnuts, which supply omega-3 fatty acids. The fat helps absorb the fruit's carotenoids, and omega-3s were also studied directly in the AREDS2 trial for their own potential eye health benefits, meaning this final pairing quietly closes the loop back to the very first study we discussed with the orange. What we've covered today isn't about eating perfectly or chasing a miracle fruit. It's about protecting your ability to read a prescription label, recognize your grandchild's face across a room, or drive yourself to your own doctor's appointments for as long as possible. None of these 5 fruits replace regular eye exams or medical treatment. They're a complement to that care, not a substitute for it. Here's what you can start tonight. Pick up citrus, grapes, mango, papaya, or kiwi. The next time you're at the store, you don't need all 5 at once. If you choose kiwi, eat it specifically about an hour before bed rather than earlier in the day, since that's the timing actually used in the sleep research. Pair whichever fruit you choose with a small amount of fat nuts, seeds, or yogurt, since several of these nutrients are fat-soluble and absorb better that way. And keep whatever fruit you buy visible on the counter, rather than in the crisper drawer, since produce you can see gets eaten far more often than produce you have to remember to look for. One safety note. If you're on blood thinners like warfarin, talk to your doctor before significantly increasing vitamin C or vitamin K-rich fruit intake, since large dietary shifts can occasionally interact with how your medication is dosed and monitored. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering whether food alone is enough, or whether you should also be taking an eye health supplement, like the AREDS2 formula we talked about today. That decision really depends on where your eyes currently stand, and there's a meaningful difference between eating for general prevention and supplementing for an existing diagnosis. I'll be covering exactly who actually benefits from AREDS2 style supplements and who doesn't need them in the next video. I'll link it right here. Have you noticed any changes in your night vision or your reading over the past year? Tell me in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else watching this right now needs to hear.